Okay, so for today's message, I will not be dropping the F-bomb. Not here. We'll be going through Psalm 81. Psalm 81. I'm always reading the superscription because I think it gives you context. For the director of music, we are reminded again, this is a song. It's a song according to Gittith of Asaph. Sing for joy to God our strength. Shout aloud to the God of Jacob. Begin the music. Strike the timbrel. Play the melodious harp and lyre. Sound the ram's horn at the new moon. And can you hear it? Right, just cutting across the sky, the horn. And the festival begins, and then the drum beat comes, and everybody's dancing. It's music. And when the moon is full on the day of our festival, this is a decree for Israel, an ordinance of God of Jacob. When you gather together, make sure there's song, make sure there's music. And sing about when God went out against Egypt, he established it as a statute for Joseph. I love it. Again, we are reminded music is so powerful. Can you imagine a world without music? It's hard. I mean, life is hard. It's impossibly hard without music. How many times has music gotten us through life? How many times it allowed us to really understand our joy and then also be with us in the deep sadness? And even when we feel alone, we turn that song on about being alone, and we're not alone. Oh, there are so many other people who felt the same despair. Music, songs. And I remember, we are going through the Psalms. Many times I've asked you, what is a song for you? What is a song for you? And I would encourage us, and by saying that, I'm encouraging myself, to listen to more songs, listen to more music. More than that, here's my challenge. Right? Make your own music. Learn an instrument. If you haven't learned an instrument, it is never, ever too late to learn an instrument. I heard an interview with Prince, and he talks about guitar is one of the simplest and the hardest instruments. Simple because really you just pick it up. It's not like piano. You learn 3 chords, 4 chords, and you could play 95% of the pop songs and like 95% of the gospel songs here, right? Not well, but you'll be able to play it and sing it. And he goes, I wish that everyone would learn to play an instrument, because you get to create something out of nothing. And so true. Like for the artist, she makes, my wife, right, makes painting, but she has to use a paint. There has to be a material to begin with. Where does the melody live before you sing it? Nowhere. You sing a melody, you strike a string, and the melody is created at that moment. And then, of course, it disappears. But every time you sing it, you create it anew. How powerful it is for us to be able to make a song. So in the Psalms, many times David goes, make a new song. You don't have to be an expert. And again, none of us are too old. The lies that our brain at some point, we can't learn new things, that's a lie. Our brain constantly has plasticity. It can always learn and develop, and we should always pick up an instrument. So, in fact, if you haven't picked up an instrument, go pick up an instrument and learn and make songs. There's some songs that only you can write because your life is unique. You've had such an amazing experience of God that only you know. Yeah, the song could suck because we haven't done it, but it's still your song. My Elena daughter, right? She was amazing yesterday, right? When she went to the host, she was good. Yeah. And then in the evening, Ian was nitpicking. But Elena nitpicking. I was like, Elena, Ian, get out, right? We can always improve, but not now. Okay, don't nitpick, right? But so she picked up guitar. And this was now several months ago, right? And then she like, I remember when she was earlier, I tried to teach her guitar. She had no interest, but something, just triggered her. And she's like, you know what? I want to learn. And once she picked it up, my goodness, she's been practicing hours and hours and hours and hours. She loved it so much. She's like, can I get a tutor? I said, actually, I'm sorry. We don't have enough budget for it to. And she's paying for her own music lesson. She's working and paying for her own music lesson. She loves it. And you could tell, like, she's practicing the scales up and down. I said, pace yourself. Don't hurry. Just get the form more correctly. And then yesterday, she bought herself her own guitar. Do you guys know Fender Jazzmaster? It is a beautiful guitar. It's like $700, $800. Again, she saved her own money. She's like, can you get me a guitar? No, I'm sorry. We just don't have enough in the budget, right? And so she worked hard, saved money, and she got this beautiful, like red, pinkish Jazzmaster guitar. It is a beautiful guitar. And it looks beautiful on her. And she's making music. Cover songs right now, but even as that, she's making music. It's such a powerful gift that we have. And we even saw it. One of the reasons why David, as messed up as he is, still is a man after God's own heart is because his heart is soft, because he's always singing, making music. Right? Can you imagine these? Like, imagine the worst type of dictator. Can you imagine them dancing and singing in Psalms? They take themselves way too seriously. And also, we're told that this is in a festival. According to Gittith, it says, it could mean many things. It could be a specific instrument. It could mean a specific type of style. But it could also mean for a specific type of day. And this one is a new moon festival song. And that brings us to today. It is important that we celebrate festivals, that on an annual basis, we remember certain things in our lives. Because when we do that, what we're saying is these stories matter. These stories matter. It's important to remember these stories. Because as I shared, like the fabrics of the universe is stories. If we don't have those stories, then we don't know what had happened. What makes us us? We have to share our stories. We have to hear people's stories. We have to celebrate their stories. That's what it is. All these holidays, July 4th, Juneteenth. We have to remember those stories. Some people don't want to remember Juneteenth, but Juneteenth's story is saying, right, even though we say the Independence Day, that day was independent only for rich white people. Right? No one's free until everyone is free. We got to remember that. And then Mother's Day is about stories of our mother. Because in the business of our life, we don't think about those stories. We only think about the tension that we have or the stress that we have. But then we stop and say, oh, these are the things that Mother did for us. And Father's Day too. To remember, oh, these are the things that Father did to us. Although we don't seem to celebrate Father's Day like we celebrate Mother's Day. I'm just saying. Yeah, there's these different rankings, but Mother's Day is always up there, but Father's Day in some rankings is like 5, 6. Some rankings go down all the way 20. Halloween beats Father's Day. People love ghosts more than dads. So it's important to remember Father's Day, right? It's very important. Yeah. And I'm so glad that I got to do yesterday's story, because that was a way for me to remember my father. Right? Let us remember Father's Day and Father's story. Like even this morning, like kids are like, oh, gifts. I don't need gifts unless it's like a new car. Yeah, don't give me a tie, power to know. Just write me something from your heart. Right? I want to know what I mean to you. So it's important that we celebrate these festivals. And to know the heart of celebrating festival is to celebrate those stories. So let's continue. I heard an unknown voice say, I removed the burden from their shoulders. Their hands were set free from the basket. In your distress you called, and I rescued you. I answered you out of a thundercloud. I tested you at the waters of Meribah. So basically, this is God, or through the festival, God, what is he doing? Retelling the story of the Exodus. Not just the rescue from Egypt, we read through this, right? But the journey from Egypt to the promised land, right? The journey of growth. And like growth, a lot of hard things, a lot of hard lessons. Hear me, my people, and I will warn you. If you would only listen to me, Israel, you shall have no foreign God among you. You should not worship any God other than me. I am the Lord your God who brought you up out of Egypt. Does that sound familiar? Yes. It is the beginning of 10 Commandments. Well, see, we're here. It's part of a story. We got to tell that story again because we keep forgetting these stories of God's love, God's rescue. Do you remember when God rescued you? Do you remember when you did not know God? And God came to you and you found hope that you could not find anywhere else. Do you remember? I am the Lord your God. Open wide your mouth and I will fill it. I will feed you with good things. But my people would not listen to me. Israel would not submit to me. So I gave them over to their stubborn hearts to follow their own devices. And here, okay, fathers, we know, right? Mothers and fathers, sometimes the children, like, you just got to let them be. You just got to let them be. If my people would only listen to me, if Israel would only follow my ways, how quickly I would subdue their enemies and turn my hand against their foes. Those who hate the Lord will cringe before him, and their punishment will last forever. But you, if you just listen, if you just turn, you will be fed with the finest of wheat. With honey from the rock, I would satisfy you. What an image, honey from the rock. Does that happen? Have you seen a rock give honey? No, but God can. Even when you're stuck in a rock in a hard place, God could give you honey if you would only listen. Now, isn't it interesting that this section starts with, I heard an unknown voice say. But then as you read what this voice sang, you know that it was God's voice. So why does the singer say unknown voice? Well, it's because when you stop listening to God, it does become an unfamiliar voice. In a powerful way, the singer is saying, you've gotten so far from God, you cannot even recognize that it's God speaking to you. We say, where's God? How come God doesn't speak to my life anymore? How come actually God might be speaking to you constantly, but you might not recognize it. I might not recognize it because I have been listening, which also means obeying God. My ears are no longer tuned to God because I've actually tuned him away. I've disobeyed. That's what it means. I don't need to listen to you. Right? That's how it is, right? Children, at some point in their life, they go, I don't need to listen to you. So then they don't. They don't call. When you call, it's always leave a voice message. Or even when you tell them, they're not listening. Nothing's going through. But whose fault is that? It's our hearts. It's hardened. We're not listening. We're not obeying. So God is telling us, if you would just listen, if you just obey, I mean, what does it cost you to obey? Oh, joy? Getting satisfied? Feeding on good things? That's what it will cost you. But why are you constantly disobeying me? Why are you forgetting my voice? I'm watching an anime series called Vinland Saga. And I've told you a couple of times that I'm just amazed at some of these anime that genre can tell actually very, very, very complex stories. And this story is actually based on, like other historically based stories, a real history. Now, the drama is, of course, created, but it's based on real life story. It takes place around AD 1002 and 1014. And at that time, there was English-Danish wars. Basically, Vikings whose way of life was pillaging, and they would go to the English village and pillage, come back and pillage. And these were very violent times. When you go to a village, I mean, you would kill all the men, right, and then leave some men to take as slaves, women as slaves, and children to be slaves. And in that time, this Vinland Saga talks about King Canute and Thorfinn. And Thorfinn eventually leaves his place to go and finds Canada. That's amazing. In 1000 AD, with a ship with no GPS, just goes, I'm looking for another land, for another type of life. So it talks about the life of Thorfinn. Like, what would make a person do this? Now, in this Vinland Saga, Thorfinn, his father gets killed in front of him when he was a little child. The father is trying to protect his son, and he gets murdered. But the thing is that Thor, his father, right, Thorfinn's father, Thor, he decided to let go of violence. In a violent world, he chose the life of pacifism. So he would not pick up his sword. And so he died in that world. And he would always teach his son, no one is your enemy. No one is your enemy. Somewhere in his life, he came to a point that he realized that violence does not make sense. But a true warrior knows that no one is your enemy. But Thorfinn is now filled with vengeance. So all his life in this Vinland Saga story, he just wants to get back or revenge his father's death. He was going to kill Askeladd, the one who killed his father. He's full with that. And he see him growing up, and he takes violent ways. He joins a Viking. He goes pillaging. He doesn't care who dies. He's part of pillaging of villages. And then it comes to a point when actually the person who murdered his father, Askeladd, someone else kills him. And now he no longer knows who to hate. And his life just comes unraveling. He doesn't care anymore. He's caught as a slave. But in a strange sense, and this is, God does this, right? That slavery is actually, for him, a turning point. Because he's given up his life. He used to do whatever people say, but as he's taking care of the land, something in his heart becomes soft. And as he's meeting people, other slaves who had suffering and violence, and they went there because someone pillaged their village, and he begins to see things differently. And then he begins to have nightmares of all the people that he killed with his own hands. But slowly, through care, through love, through taking care of the land, farming the land, he comes to understand what his father was saying. And that's when he begins to hear his father's voice again. To be a true warrior is to know that no one is your enemy. And now King Canute comes to take the farm that he is working as a slave. He could run away. The master says, you should go run away. But he doesn't. He comes to face King Canute and says, do not pillage this farm. Like, what is this? So now it's a complex story. King Canute actually knows Thorfinn, right? But again, complex story. Point is, as he comes, he doesn't come with any swords. He says, I just want a time with the king. Just want to meet with the king. The king knows me. I just want to talk to the king. And the king's guard is like, no, I'm not going to do. You are nothing. You are a slave. And he punches him, and he stands back up. And he says, I'm not going to go until you let me. And then this event happens where they're betting on this. Okay, king's guard, I bet this guy, Thorfinn, will die at 20 punches, 40 punches, 100 punches. And when Thorfinn hears this, he goes, okay, what's the maximum bet? Right? 100. If I take 100 punches, would you let me see the king? He's chosen a different path. And Mr. This one thing I forgot, that he hears, right, in this journey of transformation, he hears his master reading a Bible. Back in those days, remember, those Bibles were hugely expensive. It wasn't printed. Only rich people had written Bible. And he's reading about turn the other cheek. And the master reads and says, is this for real? But Thorfinn heard that. And so that's what he does. And so punch after punch. Now he is smart because he's fought before. So he's like taking a punch, but kind of dodging a little, moving with it. But there's one time the punch lands perfectly. And the king's guard's like, I felt that. And he's out. But then he stands back up like Rocky. He's all bruised. Well, like Jesus. He said, how many more? And you could see at the last 100 punch, because actually punching is hard too. The king's guard is like, and it just touches him. You could see the king. And you go see the king, and he says to the king, please leave this farm. Well, what's your negotiation? What are you going to do if I don't? I can't do anything. But he just shares his story, how he was once a violent, pillaging boy, and now he chose the way of his father, that no one is his enemy. How do we understand and hear the Father's voice, God's voice? By listening to him. And what is God's voice? It is definitely not warring and violence and revenge, right? The reason why Jesus heard the Father's voice all the time is because he listened to his Father. He listened to his Father. And he lived in a very, very beautiful, powerful, not an easy way, but beautiful way. Father's Day. It would be great if our sons listen to us. But maybe we got to start with us listening to our own Father. And the story that we just read, the song, is about God's love. How much God loved us. How much God loved us. So I would like to close this time with this poem. It's a very, very beautiful poem about God's love. Or the Father's love. Our physical Father. It's called Those Winter Sundays by Robert Hayden. And it's a poet just remembering again, back in those days, what his father did for him. Something he did not see when he was living through that moment. Sundays, too, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue black cold. Then with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather made, banked fires blaze, and no one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold splintering breaking. When the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress, fearing the chronic angers of that house. Speaking indifferently to him, who had driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well, what did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lonely offices? When we think about our fathers who were not perfect, but there's so many things that we do not know. Before we woke up, didn't they? Warming up the house, polishing our good shoes. I remember me and my brother, our first job was getting newspapers out. And Dad was like, it's hard. I said, no, we want to make some money. And the very next day, it snowed. And my dad goes, come here. And he takes us in the car. And he's the one who's giving the newspaper while we're staying warm in the car. So many ways in which our Father loved us, as imperfect as they are. So many ways God loves us. And we don't see it. We don't even see it. But it happens. It happens. Let us always listen to our Father's loving voice so that it will never become unfamiliar. and let us make music and songs about our fathers. Amen.